It's The Perfect Union, the perfect podcast for the perfect country, brought to you by your perfect host, Hank Thompson, for you, the perfect listener. Hello, everybody. Perfect Union is a politics wing of winners and losers enterprises and apocalypse training courses. Training courses are canceled. The apocalypse is upon us. There will be no more training. You're on your own, motherfucker, so get used to it. Make soup out of your parents' brains and hope you don't catch one of those cannibalism diseases, okay? That's the healthcare plan of the future, where we're headed. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good. We use that word a little too recklessly, I would offer. Hi, everybody. I'm Hank. I'm the host of the show. Day after the debate, the first presidential debate between two champions of freedom, the amalgamation of every single thing that could go wrong within a human person, the manifestation of all of America's worst characteristics and psychoses, and every single possible privilege that could be bestowed upon a human being, all boiled down and reduced into one monstrous oil monster that can't be defeated or battled. I guess he can be defeated, or all of that, but pretty much not so bad. That was who we were debating between, Biden and Trump, and moderated by Christopher Wallace from the Fox News program, which is a billionaire-controlled and funded propaganda network that for some reason has its tendrils into the minds of all of our parents who believe what they say because they put attractive people on stage, as well as the occasional, cigar stinking ghoul to make them all feel like it's someone they can relate to. So good setup. 3 white dudes. The representation, that matters. I see so many white people and I think, what is this? The Constitution signing? What is this? The Declaration of Independence signing? What is this? Every meeting ever in the 1700s and 1800s in this country where people made important decisions? And 1900s and 2000s or whatever we call these, the 2000s. It was a mess. It was a nightmare. I'm gonna talk about that quite a bit. Also gonna go over a little bit of the reaction this morning. Not a lot, honestly. Actually, just Nancy Pelosi was pining for the GOP to make a comeback. So there you go. The leader of the party, I guess the leader of the party is Biden. God. The leader, Nancy Pelosi, is the most powerful person. She is the second in line to be president. I actually tweeted somewhere a few weeks ago about her being the third, and on a subtweet. It's the only way anybody who faves my tweets or whatever. No, but this one was getting people's reaction, and someone pointed out she's actually second or something because Trump is not technically in line. He is the president, so she is. It would go to the vice president, and then to the Speaker of the House, and then to the president pro temp or something like that of the Senate. I believe would be the third in line, and that is currently Chuck Grassley, who was like, he's this old guy from Iowa, and he's got a Midwestern accent, and I'm totally botching it right now. But yeah, he's an old doddering dinosaur as well. All these, mutant velociraptors are running our world. So anyway, Pelosi though is the Democrat closest to the power, and goes on TV the day after the most important election of our lifetimes, and says that she wishes the opposing party would come back and be who they used to be or something like. It is so obvious that these are not separate parties. They fight. There are material differences between them, though, so that's what we fight about. But they are working for the same corrupt system, and the corrupt system that was designed and has been implemented and is run and controlled by the ultra wealthy and corporate interests. They are working for the same fucking people that is aggressively speeding humanity towards its own inevitable doom. God, I wish I didn't mispronounce inevitable right there. Damn it. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to talk about it. I was going to go over Trump's taxes and stuff. That came out over the weekend from the New York Times. They got, I think, all of his taxes from 2000 onward, which is a huge scoop. I mean, heck, Rachel Maddow, you're off the chart. What do they call that? The podium. You're off the podium, Rachel. Step down to number 2, silver winner. I'm referring to the time where she tweeted out, "We've got him." And then everybody was excited to watch her show. They had a 2-page summary of Trump's taxes. That showed he paid a bunch of taxes. Leaked suspiciously. I don't know if that was ever found out, and I don't want to speculate. Well, of course I want to speculate, but I don't know if they ever figured out who sent it. But it could have been like a Trump insider doing on behalf of him. But anyway, so this tax news is gigantic. I'm just gonna say this real quick. I always think I should be doing like 4 episodes a week, so I definitely would cover this. But I was confused about it being what it meant. If it meant, so he's paid 0 taxes for 11 out of 18 years, and in 2016 and 2017 he paid $750 in federal taxes. The 0 taxes was also 0 federal taxes. Far lower, even when he paid $750. And actually around 2017, 2016 is when I was doing mostly gig work, Postmates. I'd do animation and video editing when I could, freelance, but that was pretty sparse. And I was depressed as fuck. I was barely functioning. And I'm out doing Postmates and some of the other ones. It was just a nightmare, a horrible time. I was so miserable, and I was starting to get myself, just to protect my health and my safety, honestly, to plan a move out of LA. I just was like, I'm done. I still want to move out of LA. That hasn't gone away. But anyway, far less than what I paid in taxes during those years. During 1 year of that, where I made $22,000, and I still paid $5,000 or $6,000 in taxes. And this billionaire guy, this fraud, this corrupt, getting my words, they're all coming to so fast. This corrupt crook, fraud, lying, con man, wannabe dictator, fascist, fake billionaire, piece of scum, paid $750 while working on a tax cut for everybody else that he benefited from. But what wasn't clear was, I mean, the reaction people seem to be rightfully reacting, responding with outrage, and also a lot of "I told you so's," and of course that is. And my least favorite, and I find myself leaning or doing it every once in a while, and I try to be careful, is that thing where you're like, "What, you're surprised? Why are you surprised by it?" It's like, yeah, no, I'm not surprised. I know, and I do it too. I have this feelings and this reaction sometimes. But what argument are you making? What are you doing? You're just farting at an orgy, okay? Let us rub oils on each other, all right? In red lamps, because we all like to pretend to be French fries. I feel like that's what an orgy is. Everybody just pretends to be a French fry. Good commentary, Hank. But it's not surprising. It's shocking. It's not surprising. But and there's just an overwhelming, nonstop fountain of bullshit and lies and confusion and dismay and anger and sadness and exhaustion. I'm not jumping ahead really, but this was a note I wrote. I'm not going to read the note, but this thought is from a note I wrote. I got to go over my notes and stuff while we do the political or the debate part of this podcast. But just all those emotions you feel, all that difficulty you have dealing with this, and you have your own set of support. You have friends, you have family. If you're lucky, you have good friends and family that you can connect with. You have habits to deal with it, how you manage your stress. Some habits are healthy, some are less healthy. Some are somewhere between, and those are okay too. But anyway, the point is, all of these, this jumble of feelings that you feel and that are provoked because you care, because you can't turn off your empathy reactor, and you pay attention to this stuff. I've been watching politics since I was like 15. I'm 145 years old. So it's a long time. But you can't not have a reaction to it. And all of those emotions are generally just lead to exhaustion, right? Just there's another word I'm trying to think of, but this sort of I can't handle it. I gotta back off. I can't deal with this. I'm just it's so I think there's a what is the phrase? Learned helplessness. I think is the phrase I'm looking for, where sometimes when you're being attacked, the most rational thing at the moment is to retreat into stillness, is to just stop fighting. And they want you to stop fighting. I'm not saying this to try to inspire you to fight. I'm just saying this as something that is well documented and understood psychologically, and I think we're all observing it in each other, and it's probably in ourselves, that when you stop fighting and say, I can't keep up with this, because it's so much easier to make up a bunch of lies and bullshit, especially when you have Trump's communication ability. He is skilled at communicating. I know it's not a compliment. He's a gifted communicator because he's a con man. He uses it for evil, but his full body, his face, his hands, the affect, the narrative that we understand about him, the way others react to him, I honestly think is one of the strongest indicators of not just Trump, but this is kind of true of any story narrative. If you're putting a story on screen, the shark in Jaws wasn't scary because it was a huge ass fish that could chop off your thigh and just leave the rest, like your lower leg still is somehow magically there. That shark was scary because all the humans they showed freaking out. And so when you see Trump, what you see everybody deferring to him. Everybody kind of just being like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So like really good movies and stories and storytelling. Oh, God damn, this is not what I was going to say. But one example that I just noted and stands out in my head is Grand Theft Auto 5. Their storytelling is excellent compared to most video games. They're highly funded. These things make the video game industry is way bigger than the movie industry. So these are like career professionals who work on a lot of these things. There's also a lot of labor problems with the video game industry, but there's a character who's really wild and crazy, and he's violent and insane, and he's just. They start with him being him. And what's so effective about the whole scene, I don't need to go into all the dirty, gritty, gory details or whatever, but is that everybody around him is nervous. Everybody around him is terrified. And he doesn't seem to care. And you're just like, oh, man. That's, I think, what really sells it. So, all right, so Trump is kind of like that. Trump has that thing where, like, you, as a social creature, as an animal, you're picking up these signals from your social environment way more than, and processing it much faster than you understand. And it's happening in your subconscious largely, where you don't realize it. So you're picking up signals from everybody around, right? Like when I go to the mall and all the women start getting flustered with attraction. That's why I don't go outside. So I'm a hermit, because no one would buy jewelry for their babies at the mall. Isn't that all they sell at the mall? I think this mall just does haircuts, shoes, and baby jewelry. Piercing, when do you pierce a baby's ears? When is it appropriate? Probably when they're a toddler. Just wait till they grow up and graduate a little bit, would ya? I had a job briefly before I went to work at the Young Turks for the second round. Like that was like 2018 or so. But right before that, I needed work. I drove Teslas professionally for a startup that was doing like transportation services. And it folded after 4 weeks of me working there. It really sucked because I just finally got used to it and was pretty good at it. But part of it was hanging out at the mall. Because I know it sounds so random, but Tesla has these supercharging stations that are where you plug the car in to get to refuel. And I would have to wait, and you're at the mall. And as part of the day, it was like you can go into the mall. You'd go to the mall to pee, wander around. I'd see, maybe there's a sale on bras at the JCPenney or something like that. In case, sometimes I'd like to stock up. I burn through those things so quick. They make great kindling. And but no, I've been driving for 5-6 hours by that point. Start my days at 3:30 in the morning. It was actually, that job was 4 days on, 3 days off, and those were 10-12 hour days. Not great rate money wise, but it was better than doing gig work. Way better. Anyway, so it's just good enough to get by and not be totally stressed out. But those were long days. But I love 3 days off. Hashtag 4-day work week. I'm telling you, that is something that is achievable in our lifetimes. It is so nice to have a third day off. And there's absolutely no reason we can't have that every week. You should have 3 days off every week. And holidays should then be 4-day weeks. The only reason it's not is because the people in charge don't want that. Because they're making money from the way it is, and they're making money from your desperation and your precariousness. Anyway, so I'd wander around the mall. And I would buy baby jewelry, haircuts, and shoes. It's amazing that malls are still... Okay, goddamn, how did I get to there? What was I saying? Oh, the taxes. Yeah, so this tax cheating, what I finally learned is... Because I was confused. Does it mean he has zero money? Literally? Like he's actually broke? And if you're broke, you pay zero. You don't have money, and you're absolutely broke, and you don't owe any taxes. You don't pay any taxes. Or he's got money. So the first option is he has no pile. The second option, he has a pile. Does he have money? And he's just using the rules the way they're written, and they can be exploited by the wealthy. They're designed to be exploited by the wealthy. They're also not enforced. One of the major parts of this is the lack of IRS funding to audit wealthy individuals. One of the first things George W. Bush did when he got into power in the early 2001 was defund a substantially part of the IRS, and it's been whittled away since then. I'm not sure if the IRS is ever like the peak efficiency government, but it is a enormously important part of the system here, and they made sure to defund and get rid of auditors who were looking into wealthy individuals. In a sense, you might even say that they defunded the police. They defunded the tax police for wealthy people. And now, 2020, barreling into year zero, because we're going to rename everything after Trump. It's going to be Trump 1, Trump 2. Which month do you think should be? Do you want? What month were you born? Well, yeah, now it's called Ivanka-vember. Okay? That's all going to happen. But now the tax, they mostly audit poor people. They go after people who have no money for being incorrect on their taxes. And then the whole... okay, all right, I'm starting to deal with all the taxes. This fucking country, man. H&R Block and TurboTax and these tax corporations, including the small CPAs like the one I use, and I like the guy, he's a really good dude. But they all... I even told him this. We were talking politics and stuff. They benefit from this tax code and doing our taxes being so wildly insane. And difficult and hard to understand, because then they can charge you money to have an expert look it over and do your taxes for you. Doesn't happen in other countries. The government already has all that information. They send you a thing that says, here's the information we have, here's the taxes you owe or the taxes you're getting back. Thank you. If you have anything you want to change, feel free, but you're done. 2 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. Probably business owners, people that have more assets might have to employ somebody to help them with some of that. But in this country, it's explicitly lobbied by these corporations so that they can maintain your stress around taxes, so that they can feed off you. They can scrape more profit from you, from your already difficult ability to pay for your necessities in life. And also, what's the other side effect of that? Well, you hate taxes, don't you? It's fucking annoying to spend all that money to have to deal with all this confusing paperwork and not really know if you're going to get in trouble, all this shit. So it fulfills the ideological persuasion matrix, a phrase I just made up, to keep the argument alive that taxes are always evil, that you're supposed to hate taxes. I don't like that my tax money goes to starving children in Yemen. I mean, to the verb starving children, not the adjective starving children. There's this distinction there. We support that war. We sell bombs to Saudi Arabia and the blockade in their war against Yemen, their southern neighbor, who they're doing ruthless and brutal things to. And we have all kinds of ways tax. Okay, all right. Oh, I don't think I got to my point about the tax thing. Is that he actually still has lots of assets in his portfolio. So he's rich, but cheating to pay as little as possible. But even by those standards, he's doing some weird, probably money laundering schemes with his properties. But he's not broke. He's got lots and lots of properties, but it's also he's highly over leveraged, meaning he owes a lot of debt. Nobody knows that debt, who it belongs to, who he owes money to. You couldn't get a security clearance with this much debt at all. They figured that if you have this kind of debt, that you could be coerced and manipulated. So anyway, so the answer is he doesn't. It's not that he has zero money and is paying zero. It's that he has money and he's paying zero, which is worse. And that's also how most of the fucking, like Mitt Romney got away with, he was what, 250, 300 million millionaire, and he got called out for only paying 14% in taxes. Might have been 17 or something like that, which is incredibly low and pathetic that we tolerate a world where people like Mitt Romney, a poor person with $250 million, gets away with only paying 14 or 15%. Trump was paying zero. Okay. So we're going to talk about the debate a little. Not going to get too overwhelmed by it all, really. I mean, what the hell am I saying? Of course I am. But before that, do you guys remember this? Oh, you hear that noise? You guys hear? Is this ringing a bell? Is this sounding familiar? Cowardice.
Are you serious? Apologies for freedom. I can't handle this.
Apologies for freedom. I can't handle this. No, don't apologize for freedom.
When freedom rings, answer the call. On your feet, stand up.
Well, freedom's more likely to text, or these days maybe a TikTok notification. Answer the call. Let's keep going.
Call. Freedom's on our shoulders. USA.
It's on your shoulders. Freedom's on your shoulders. What the fuck? Okay. There's something fun. There's some fun stuff right about to happen. This is. I'm sure some of you remember this, but maybe those that don't. This was a group called the USA Freedom Kids, and I'm not here to shit on these. There's a bunch. It's like little girls. They're like 11, probably 7. It's 3 of them. They're at a Trump rally. So this segment, to be clear, is not about dogging these little kids. I actually kind of find it repulsive when parents impose politics on their children. You should impose like new experiences and new ways of thinking, and teach them curiosity and teach them to not be afraid of their feet. I'm not a parent, but I don't know. But I think we could use better parenting overall in large swaths of the population. And I mean, not just Republican politics. I also think it's kind of gross when I see little kids holding up Bernie Sanders signs. Like, even if the sign says Medicare for all and everybody deserves dignity, shit like that, that's better than the Republican kids that are running around with like holding guns and, like white makes right and whatever the hell else they're gonna, this strange fascistic Nazi upswell. But they're not independently minded thinkers. They're not yet there, and I just find it kind of gross. So this is that in a way. So there's some news stories we're going to get to after I get through some of this. But anyway, yeah, these kids played at Trump rally. This is in Pensacola, Florida. If you recall 2016, where everybody just looked at Trump as this circus sideshow freak, and then he started to win the polling and started to become the favorite within the GOP voter base. Famous for great decision-making skills, Republican voters. The campaigns the rallies were sideshows because they reflect the boss, and they became hate rallies. And so all sorts of crazy stuff happened at them. I went to one when I was working with Jimmy Dore. We went to the one in Anaheim, I want to say, somewhere in California. It was wild. It was insane. I'll probably talk more about that some other day. So we got to hear these girls, and they're dancing on stage. There's a podium on stage, and it's a little awkward, and I can't, maybe they're not ready for the big time, for the big stage. And this was a huge deal for this group. Hey, man, Michael Jackson's dad did it. Set up a little kid group, and billions will flow your way. Nothing wrong with that. Go for it. Well, I mean, I said earlier, it's kind of weird to do it about politics and shit, but you can force your children to become a musical group. And then that's what freedom's all about. Not that kids can't get excited and want to do stuff. There's nothing wrong with a child having enthusiasm for a hobby. Like when I was a kid, my hobby was Sega. So this line coming up is fun. We got to get to the stories.
Means of freedom. Face the music. Come on, boys, take them down.
Okay, come on, boys. Take them down. All right, I screwed that up, though. Let's rewind just a touch. They say enemies.
Enemies of freedom. Face the music. Come on, boys, take them down.
Face the music. Are you an enemy of freedom? Well, it's time to face the music. Get out here, 7-year-old little girl in a USA costume. Face the music, enemies of freedom. And then we're going to send our boys to take you down. Like, whoa. Little kids singing that is so dystopian and otherworldly and violent. That's not even the line. What made me remember this was this one specific line that's coming up. But I was watching this, and the enemies of freedom need to face the music. And we're going to take you down. Who do they? One of the things, okay, the way they have, like in the Matrix, where Agent Smith puts his fingers in your forehead and just controls whatever's in your brain or whatever, however that works, they just have that to their own audience. Whatever the story they want to tell, they believe. You got enemies. Well, your enemy today is this. Your enemy yesterday was that. Your enemy, but they don't go into past or future. It's all present. What are the immediate needs? The image in my mind is if the inside of their skull was a movie projection screen, and you can just see the frames flickering, but there's no past, there's no future. There's just the immediate narrative that they need to inject into the mind of their followers. And this isn't just true for the GOP. This is cultish in general, but people on the right like to line up behind authoritarian personalities because they have authoritarian tendencies. They're comforted by hierarchy. It's gross. So let's push on a little longer here.
President Donald Trump knows how to make America great.
Here's the good line.
Deal from strength or get crushed every time.
They're doing a dance. Deal from strength or get crushed every time. Deal from strength or get crushed. I want to hear it one more time. Here we go.
President Donald Trump knows how to make America great. Deal from strength or get crushed every time.
Wow. Okay. Crazy. This was a pretty. This got a little attention at the time when it was in the news. This is all from 2016, and then it got interesting. All of a sudden, news hits. So I don't know the date here on this exact screenshot. I think I have the next one here. Yeah. Okay. July 26th, 2016. The dad behind pro-Donald Trump USA Freedom Kids plans to sue the campaign. What? Wait a minute. Whoa. Shirley, press pause. Shirley's my producer. I don't think she pressed pause. Trump is going to be sued. This has never happened before. Wait, hold on. I'm getting new. Wait, why am I trying to perform this up? Trump has been sued thousands of times by people who've worked for him. Mostly, I don't have stats on it, for contract failure to own up to a debt, to pay them usually. He uses the justice system and the law as a tool for negotiating. If you work for Donald Trump, you're almost guaranteed to end up in court to try to get a third of the payment back to you. That's just a phase of the process. He would rip people off. It's known throughout so many stories. This old woman who was like one of his top people in the Trump organization for years throughout the 80s and 90s came out and talked about this. I mean, there's all kinds of documentation and witnesses to Trump's being sued and suing other people. The justice system for him and for rich people like him is just another way to manipulate the whole system to keep themselves in line with their ideological needs and their financial bloodlust. Green lust. Maybe that's not the best term. What's going on here? The father behind the pro-Donald Trump girl group, USA Freedom Kids, which went viral after a performance during a Florida rally earlier this year, now plans to sue the Republican presidential hopeful, he said Tuesday. Jeff Popek, who manages the Florida-based singing group and wrote a song about Trump's ability to crush America's enemies. The verb crush is great. I love that word. I also in the romantic sense. Like, I think having a crush on somebody's fine, but I like this kind of usage. Has consulted with an attorney to file a lawsuit against the Trump campaign for violating its agreement with the group. Popek, whose daughter Alexis leads the group, claims the campaign made promises to the group in exchange for their performances, including a booth at a rally to promote the girls' albums, which never materialized. Donald Trump and the people who work for him made promises that they didn't follow through on to one of their own most loyal supporters, a guy who wrote a hit tune? Next paragraph. There is a legal issue here, but there's also a morality issue, Popek told Time on Tuesday. It's important that I, as a role model for the group, hold their feet to the fire. You know what? That's just being a good dad. He doesn't want his children and their friend. I don't think they're all his daughters. He doesn't want them to see a guy not stand up for himself. He doesn't want them to get the idea that it's okay to treat people with such disdain and disrespect, especially your own supporters. He is their role model, and so he's showing them that you do what's right. You stand up for what's right. And they had an agreement that Donald Trump violated. He took value from little girls. No, listen, that's something Trump and his Epstein buddies love to do. That's dark. Jesus. And so he's going to hold their feet to the fire with a lawsuit, and I think that's the right move. Later in the article, Popek said the USA Freedom Kids in January were promised a booth at the Pensacola, Florida rally during their breakthrough performance to pre-sell their album. When they got to the rally, there was no booth for them. That never materialized, he said. We did, but they didn't. Nice. The campaign then asked the girls to perform during a campaign event in Des Moines, Iowa. Popek said, so remember, this one we already listened to was Pensacola, Florida. When they're from Florida. A little easier to get to Pensacola from wherever they're from. You just got to hop on the alligator and take it down the street. Popek said he paid out of pocket for the traveling expenses, but when the group arrived, the girls were told they weren't going to perform. We got to Des Moines and their plan, quote unquote, changed, and we were told to just sit in the audience. So they traveled from Florida to Des Moines. That is an arduous journey. You have to cross the mountains of Moria. You can take the mountain pass or go through the mines. The mines. And we all know what happens when you do that. Trolls. You got to go through the trolls. A bunch of Pepe logos and strange emojis that are incomprehensible. Next part. This is not all like in line, by the way. There's chunks to this article here. Now, after his experience with the Trump campaign, Popek said he is questioning whether he still believes in his lyrics. I'm very saddened by it, he said. I'm not really sure what to think. The fact that what he's done to my group, or lack thereof, doesn't necessarily mean he wouldn't be the right guy for president. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the right person to make political commentary. Ooh, boy. I'm not trying to shit on this guy here, but man. That is okay. The 54-year-old businessman has not yet decided how much to sue the campaign for, but said that he would not demand, quote unquote, billions of dollars. Obviously a sophisticated thinker. I've asked and asked them for many months to make it right, and they haven't. And if that means going the legal route, then so be it. Good for you, Popek. Set a good example for the girls. USA Freedom girls sue Trump campaign for stiffing them. So he followed through. He's suing. All they wanted was to hawk some merchandise and money for airfare, but the lawyer for the three patriotic girls say that all they got was broken promises. This is from Kelly Wheel in the Daily Beast published on September 6th, 2016. Updated on the 13th of 2017 in April. That was a terrible way of reading that, but it doesn't really matter. Here we go. The USA Freedom Kids said in a newly filed lawsuit the Trump campaign broke verbal agreements for performances at two events and refused to pay even a $2,500 stipend for the group's travel expenses. We are not able to pay the girls or cover travel. Stephanie Scruggs, a regional field director, wrote Jeff Popek. What? A regional field director wrote... Oh, Stephanie Scruggs wrote to Jeff Popek. Okay, that was... All right. USA Freedom Kids founder and father to one of the girls in a January 5th email presented as evidence in the suit. Let me just read you that one. I really botched that. We are not able to pay the girls or cover travel. Stephanie Scruggs, a regional field director, wrote Jeff Popick, USA Freedom Kids founder and father to one of the girls in a January 5 email presented as evidence in the suit. However, we have coordinated with the event space to allow the girls to set up a table and pre-sell their album, shirts, etc. if this is helpful to you. In parentheses, the Trump campaign did not return a Daily Beast request for comment. All right, so, hey, we're not going to pay you for travel. That's on you. There, you dumb fucking idiots. That's how the Trump people think of their own supporters. But you want to set up a table, okay, you can set up a table. The Trump campaign said they'd save seats for the scorned performers on the condition that none of the girls spoke to the media. You can watch, but you must be silent. Be silent. Don't tell them my secrets. Popick said, even this proved difficult as the girls were still wearing their impossible-to-miss sequined flag dresses. Yeah, they're all dressed up like a superhero in The Boys. That's what they're dressed up like. They're very easy to see. And the Trump campaign had placed their reserved seats directly next to the media enclosure. Don't talk to the media. By the way, you're all dressed up like United States superheroes, and why don't you go stand next to the reporters, who we also probably will recognize you from the viral video from earlier, and maybe the other news stories about how you're suing us or might sue. The gag order came as a final injury to the group who, barred from selling merchandise or performing, had at least counted on getting some exposure from the rally. Instead, they were going home with no hint of booking future rallies. That's just not cool. Not cool. But, a lot of pop bands, they go through struggles in their early years, right? This is just one of those things. You got to keep fighting. After 9 months of haggling with Trump staffers, the group sued the campaign in Sarasota County, Florida, for as much as $15,000 in damages. That seems really reasonable. This is not an opportunistic thing where we're suing Donald Trump, Popick said. We're not suing for emotional distress and all that other stuff that people do when they trump up, no pun intended, when they trump up a lawsuit. That's not what this is. This is tangible dollars I spent under false pretenses. Yeah, he was lied to. He was tricked. USA Today, later, December 20th, 2016, deal from strength, USA Freedom Kids drop lawsuit against Trump. The president-elect can rest easy. Another legal battle has been averted. The singing group, USA Freedom Kids, has dropped its lawsuit against Donald Trump's campaign, according to our colleagues at the Naples Daily News. So remember, this is after the election, though, right? What's the date on this one again? December 20th. So he's the president now. This may all sound, the president-elect at this point, I guess. This may all sound familiar, like a flashback to some fever dream. Nearly a year ago, 3 little girls in red, white, and blue cheerleader costumes took the stage at a Florida rally for Trump and stunned the world with their performance of Freedom's Call. And then they quote, deal from strength or get crushed every time. So they dropped the suit. Now, there's a little more information in the Naples Daily News, which is like the exact same font logo shit as USA Today. So I think USA Today is like this network of papers that are all sourced from a lot of the same stuff. This is December 19. So right around then, this was reported before the USA Today national paper picked it up, I suppose. On December 13, Pop Media Group, which represents USA Freedom Kids singing troupe, voluntarily dismissed its case in Sarasota County Circuit Court, according to online court documents. The lawsuit drew national attention because a video of USA Freedom Kids performing at a Trump rally in Pensacola went viral online. In the video, we know, they all dressed up, make America great. Attempts to reach a Trump spokeswoman for comment were unsuccessful. When reached by phone Monday, Popick would not discuss the lawsuit, but said Trump is the right person to lead the United States. That's how powerful this stuff is. It's kind of one of the things I was thinking, like, why am I doing so much on this? This guy trained his daughter and her friends to sing and dance at his rallies in defense of freedom and for how international conman and failed casino boss Donald Trump is going to fix it all. So the judgment's lacking a little. But even after getting screwed, even after being lied to, being cheated, having to sue Trump, you know how much it, like that'd be like if I animated Bernie Sanders and then I sued him. No, that's not at all. But like, this is his idol. This is not, I don't. By the way, I don't equate my admiration for Bernie Sanders at all with the way that these people look at Trump. I like his policies. I find Bernie Sanders is authentic version of the cranky old guy that he is, kind of charming and kind of interesting, and I think it helps support his messaging. But I don't give a fuck about. I mean, of course, I care he's healthy and stuff, but I'm not like loyal to him. I'm loyal, and the people who like him are the policies. And you can quibble with how he functions in this crazed world, in this crazed system, but he has done a tremendous amount of good for people in keeping the flame alive for a lot of the things that he fights for and believes. Stuff that's like centrism in Europe, basically. When reached by Phil, let's see, he would not discuss the lawsuit, but he's still for Trump. So he's still for Trump. The obvious issue aside, I really think he is exactly what this country needs right now, Popek said. After engaging in the public spat with the Trump campaign, USA Freedom Kids went on a hiatus. The political stuff really took a toll on the girls. Yeah, I'm sure. USA Freedom Kids is recruiting new members so the girls can rotate performances, he said. The pop group could be back on stage by February. Popek declined to say whether he voted for Trump because that's private. He said President Barack Obama pushed the country backward. I wonder why he thinks that. The guy who made America the #1 oil producer in the country or in the world. The guy who brought unemployment down substantially, although there's a lot of shady ways that they define employment. The guy who had nothing but growth in the stock market. The guy who expanded America's empire and America's foreign engagements, radically expanded the usage of drone violence, aggressively went after media, journalists and whistleblowers for exposing state secrets, something perfectly in line with what Trump would do. But no, we went backwards. We went backwards during that time. I'm sure this guy sincerely believes that, and the media that he consumes and consumed at the time was telling him all this. He just, well, that's what the media says. The TV tells me to hate the black guy, and I already do, so that works. I think Donald Trump is the guy who can really turn it around, he said. If he can't, nobody can. So I searched for like this guy's name, and I mean, I was just kind of curious where we are now, because this is all 4 years ago, and I found very little. There's a Wikipedia entry. You can go read it if you want. But only one thing stood out to me that's worth mentioning. From Wikipedia, the USA Freedom Kids brand has expanded to include merchandise, a ringtone, and registered their trademark catchword, Ameritude. CBS News also said that these girls have Ameritude. How about that? Doesn't that just warm your little heart? Listener, viewer, huh? Maybe you need a little Ameritude. Try it. Have a little Ameritude. Put on a skirt, put some flags on it, make it blue, make it red, make it white. Did I say flags? I meant to say stars. Dance around and declare that if you don't deal from strength, you'll get crushed. Deal from strength or get crushed every time.
Deal from strength or get crushed every time.
And slow fade, we are moving on. That was fun. This is the world we live in. Okay. Wonderful. All right, let's just get through this debate shit. Man, I'm probably going to talk forever about it, but I really don't want to. It's honestly distressing and a nightmare. What a mess. What an unbelievable fucking nightmare that was. Watching it on Twitter too, meaning seeing everybody's responses. It was very dismaying. I don't know how anybody could be reassured by either of these people. I mean, Trump was an utter fucking colossal piece of shit. Just a world-class monster of all kinds. Just this belligerent. I don't like saying he's like a toddler, because toddlers are okay people. They have a pretty good excuse for being unruly. But it is toddler. It is toddler-ish. In a 70-whatever-year-old man he is. We have this whiny, weak, loud, belligerent little baby interrupting. He's rude, like all this stuff that for some reason people see that and they think that's strength. So like, one thing that kind of is a distinction that I noticed, like Biden looked terrible. He didn't look good. He could have done a lot worse than he did in terms of who won. I hate this binary win or lose a debate. I find that so absurd. The goal should be to inform viewers and to help people make a decision about politics. I know that's like a naive, kind of classical naive understanding of what the intention of a debate is supposed to be, but it should be roughly that. People, of course, observe all kinds of other factors, not just the rationality of their arguments or the intellectual foundation of it. They're looking at how they behave. Like famously Nixon and Kennedy's debates, when we finally entered the TV era, because Nixon looked like shit and he was sweating, and Kennedy put on makeup and had a tan, and he just looked like he was a lot healthier than Nixon. In this case, it's like these two guys crawled out of a children's fairy tale book of monsters, because they finally pissed off the ancient gods, and they're releasing the Balrogs of diarrhea and incontinence. Those are opposites, aren't they? Incontinence and diarrhea. Okay, so Biden could have done a lot worse. I wasn't reassured by how generously, to phrase it generously, how much he's lost a step. I don't want the person with nuclear weapons in charge of the nuclear arsenal to be someone who seems to be going through some sort of mental decline. I would still trust his judgment over Trump's by about 10 million times. I don't know why that number came up. So overall, Biden held his own enough. Like, it's impossible to do this with Trump. Like, how do you prepare for this? I don't think he's coached well. I thought that Biden, when he tries to get to his canned lines, the kind of rehearsed ones, they're like, I can't even think of them. But you can tell when he's like laying it out there, and you know that there's a room full of extremely well-paid consultants and Pod Save America types, like those dudes, because they were all Obama speechwriters and Obama communications professionals. Those types of people charge just shit tons of money to come up with these stupid little focus group tested phrases and stuff. And so you can tell when Biden's pulling one of those out. And that kind of artifice and phoniness of politics is a real turnoff. And Biden thrived. He's had a pretty successful political career, despite the horrors, probably because of the horrors that he's imposed on people. Like mass incarceration, bankruptcy bill, voting for Iraq, all that other shit. He's got a long, shitty record of being a villain. But he's thrived in this system by being kind of a classic bullshitting politician. He's just very good at it. He's lost a step, but he's good at that. It's not an accident that the most gifted political person of our era, Barack Obama, observed what I'm talking about and said, that guy needs to be on my ticket so that people are reassured about who I am. Because Obama was smart enough to understand had he picked Nina Turner, that but he needed to have an old doddering racist old white guy to kind of fill in the gap, or to sort of give that tacit approval that, hey, this guy's safe. This is one of the safe blacks. Don't you worry, everybody. Biden's okay with it. And that's the role he played as the vice president. So, but part of what Trump's power is he's a total bullshitter. He's a liar. He's a fraud. He's a scumbag. But his lies seem honest in a sense because he so clearly, he just has this wizard power of conveying his reality and imposing it onto yours. Being in his cult must just be the weirdest thing. I wonder if it just like it's like almost like a relief. Maybe one of the ways cults hold on to folks' perspectives, perceptions, is that it's probably kind of nice to have someone making all the decisions and just pulling you into their reality, and especially someone who validates and says the quiet parts out loud about the inherent biases and racism that you were raised with, that you have deeply built into you, that are also reinforced less charismatically by all the media that you consume. I've not even gotten to a damn clip here yet. What I was getting at. But Biden kept looking at the camera. You know, we saw that a lot. He didn't turn to look at Trump much. He did enough. But it's almost gross to talk. It's not gross. It's just I hate this shit that, oh, he didn't look at Trump. He looked kind of weak. But people are lizard brains. We're mammal brains, really. Lizards aren't as social animals as people are. As mammals are. You ever hang out with a monotreme? They suck at throwing parties. Mammals? Great parties. Lizards? Reptiles? No. They just shit out eggs and eat rats. And the occasional cat. So anyway, Biden was doing that like coached thing. And he could not get pulled into Trump's oily boxing match either. But, you know, where he's staring at the camera and Trump would interrupt or say something horrible and crazy, and Biden would just kind of laugh. And I found the laughing to be like, that's really all you got there, Biden? You can't come up with something else? This is the fighter we need? I mean, this is the moment we need to have a real fighter, a really sharp person who can dodge and weave and deal with this shit. But Biden kept doing this kind of TV thing. And so I was like, it seemed to me that Biden showed up for a TV appearance and Trump showed up for a fight. Trump fought. Biden was on TV. Now, Trump knows that fighting is good TV. It's entertaining. I wasn't entertained. I was embarrassed and dismayed and saddened by the whole thing. It's really a nightmare. But those two approaches, I'm not sure who Biden thinks he's impressing with that. Trump knows he's fulfilling what his base expects from him. And I think it's just in his inherent nature, too. I think it's just sort of dialed in. So anyway, all right, let's see it. Here's a part of, this is a climate question. We'll just pick it up and see where they're going.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air.
He wants clean water and air. So do the people who hear that trust him, do they just think, like in their minds, I think that means they have crystal clean water and air. I don't think they think like, well, okay, what exactly does that mean? What kind of science does it mean for water to be safe for humans, for potable water to be safe for cooking and all the other uses of water, and sustaining water tables and sustaining water supply, controlling it and having adequate, like, wouldn't you like to know that the water coming out of your sink is okay to drink? I drink sink water. I'm not big on bottled water instead of sink water like a lot of people are. That always seemed like propaganda to me, meaning you're just participating in some some corporate messaging scheme over decades. So I prefer sink water, to be honest. But we have the ability to clean water and deliver water through holes in your walls. That is absolutely miraculous. It is amazing that you can get hot water, cold water, blasting out various holes in your walls, and we even have a chair that has such a beautiful water system designed into it that it flushes away last night's Applebee's. That's amazing. It's incredible. And mass scale. And yet I don't have a ton of confidence that the water I'm drinking is totally safe. I'm pretty sure it is. I think I could probably look up some government websites and see some testing reports. But that's what functional government is supposed to do. I wouldn't want to have to think about it. I'd love to live in a country where I knew that the water was going to be healthy no matter what. And that if new science came along about how to better manage it, that we would adjust and be smart about it. Anyway, here we go.
Want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But
what does that mean? We are doing it's none of it is.
But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission.
As always. So that's the rift, or the thing that conservatives, why they don't give a shit about the environment, and historically haven't. Maybe more these days as their businesses are being burned, or as the sky turns red for 2 weeks, or as you get 14 hurricanes arriving at once. There was like a hurricane event in Iowa that was some sort of strange land super cluster of storms. So until it actually burns down your house or floods away your baseball card collection next to your cigar box in your basement, businesses might not give that much of a shit about climate change and about the environment, which is gobsmacking. So he's speaking to that. Like, oh, we destroy businesses. Oh, you're going to make me put a smokestack on my factory that's going to filter out X% of some harmful toxin? Well, there goes my wife's Tesla. Fuck you.
If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our business...
How does he know? People are happy. Maybe he likes that the Mordor's merchant class who hangs out at his private club that he sells for $200,000. I wonder what the price is. They raised Mar-a-Lago's entrance fee from $100,000 to $200,000 when he became president. I imagine it's gone up now. I gotta look that up. So he's hearing from his Rudy Giuliani's of the world, these ghoulish men that probably praise him for making it possible that it's easier for them to pollute. When this guy says people, he means super wealthy business owners. I don't have the clip or anything, but where he talked about having football player or football friends, but he said like other owners, like they're owners of teams, billionaires basically. Like that's how this guy relates.
Businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cut.
So most of the fires in America right now in California are happening on federal land that are under the responsibility of Donald Trump to manage. So that's his fault, if that is the actual explanation for why fires are worse. It's true that there are some of the reasons why fires burned is human presence and human mismanagement of forests. Forests need to be managed with intelligence and with care and with honest non-profit-based intentions, meaning we should care about the world because it's a beautiful, absolutely wonderful place Earth is. And that's what's so frustrating about this whole line of you'll hear from the right on fires is, oh, well, gee, it's those Democrat blue state governors that aren't managing their forests correctly, as if the increasing droughts that result from climate change aren't part of the problem, as if the extra energy injected into the system due to the greenhouse effect isn't extending the length of these droughts and increasing all the various energetics that contribute to how these fires spread and what causes these seasons to last longer and longer, or the way we're able to marshal resources to fight the fires. I mean, there's ways of managing this stuff, but it is a big complex thing. Where do you build homes? Where should you build homes? Where should you expand? If you are going to put homes in fire-prone areas, what protections are you going to take? That's why it's frustrating, because there is a kernel of truth to the notion that humans do have control over the land, but to suggest that the only reason, this is kind of like doing like an individualism mind flash on this problem as opposed to a collective issue or a systemic issue. Yes, it is an individual state by federal agency responsibility to properly manage forests. You can manage poorly or manage it well. That's true for every single thing, but that doesn't mean that that's the only part of the equation or the factor. I fucking hate this guy. I hate him so much. Okay, so in this one, we get to the part of the night where Joe Biden brought up Beau Biden, his son who died of brain cancer. He was a district attorney for Rhode Island, I think, and he was a I don't think you have a district attorney for a whole state, right? You do like a city district or something. Like I don't. Maybe you do because Rhode Island is so small. Whatever. Hunter was also a veteran who was wounded in Iraq. It's kind of weird to like get hurt in a war your dad voted for and was a big proponent of. But on the other hand, you can put a point on the board in favor of Biden for that to say that like, it's a very rare thing that a politician's child actually sees real combat and gets wounded. That's pretty rare. So credit to that. I mean, it's like this world is so far gone that I would be glad if it was like, you know what? We finally reached our goal. We still have wars everywhere. We still invade countries all the time. We still do secret coups and make sure that we don't have any uprisings in countries that might be unfavorable to our corporate interests. But you know what we do now? Politicians' kids get killed too. And that's fair. And that's just fine. But anyway, so this does come up. It's about the middle way through this clip I've got here. And I'm not exactly sure what the first bits are about. But we're just going to hit play and we'll get into it.
Why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent.
That was one of his better answers. It was more clear. It was simple. It was clear. And it was simple. And I think that's what people who are still watching this and don't know who they're going to vote for, which is an unbelievable thing to be at this point. Although I guess you can see some people just don't even dial in on this crap until around now when it interrupts must-see TV.
When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession.
It's like, that's like, he's right. It's a pattern where Republicans come in, spend themselves into wars and chaos and overspend, and suddenly the economy collapses and Democrats come in and clean it up and put back the pieces. I mean, it's a bit oversimplification, but it is like, it is true. The 2007 and 8 collapse, I don't think you can necessarily say that it's only the Republicans' fault. They were in charge. Bush was in charge. You know, his economic team was calling the shots. But Obama had to deal with a cratered economy, and he managed to bring it back somehow with not enough of a stimulus bill and with, you know, however he managed to do. Unemployment went down, stock market went up, the important magic line that everybody cares so much about. And so he's right, but then he just simplifies it like, and he caused the recession. It just drives me crazy.
With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son.
He's trying to hit him on the Putin story, which I'm not sure if it's been verified or not. I called him Putin's puppy. Maybe that landed. Kind of squeezed right by. But anyway, here's Trump interrupting.
No.
$3.5 million.
And by the way, my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed.
So at this point, though, we're like 50-something minutes in. So Chris Wallace has been trying to wrangle this toddler, this little whiny bitch in for most of the hour. Not doing a great job of it either. And framing questions with Republican conservative framing, which is utterly ridiculous. This is like the one, they say, respectable journalist on Fox News. He's a toady for all of them, just like the rest of them are. He's no better than Tucker Carlson or any of these other fuckheads. Okay, he's slightly better than Tucker Carlson. But that's like saying like shit's better than poop than diarrhea. Okay, sorry, diarrhea jokes. Okay, goddamn, I'm immature. Here we go.
Both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add back
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
okay.
You may have.
All right.
Pretty reasonable request. Only 30 seconds. I would have gone, okay, all right, let me start over. Come on, Biden. Play your card. Be a little aggressive.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, We're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over
He almost said worse. I think he had wealthy in his brain and or he was thinking wealthy, but it was pushing out worse. Let's listen to that again.
We're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more.
It's actually something like 700, I think. It's just 800. It's every month it goes up 100 billion or something. I don't know what it is, but it's more than 300 or 400 billion.
Just since COVID, you in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before.
You could just feel the slippage. You could just tell. It's so obvious.
In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard...
That's a good point. I mean, you know, one of the things that Republicans are doing and the Trump campaign is doing is showing images of police violence and these chaotic scenes of quote unquote riots and these protests, and saying that this is Biden's America, this is what it's going to look like if Biden. It's like, this is your country right now, fuckface. This is what you are overseeing. They're basically saying all the chaos that you're experiencing right now will happen if we're gone. The chaos we're starting and we're a part of and we're responsible for preventing or dealing with, it'll be there when we're gone. That's the promise here. It's unbelievable how little they think of their supporters and their voters. They're such grifting scumbags.
With regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way.
Okay, so here's how he gets into his son's stuff. So he's going to start talking about Bo. Boy, man, could you imagine having a kid named Bo and he turns out to be ugly? Bo is a hunky man name. Bo. You got to change it means beautiful. It's French for beautiful. I would name my kid Meh, which is French for meh. Meh. Merde.
And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers.
Like, it's weird that he looks up at the camera and says, the way you talk about. I know he thinks he's talking to Trump, but turn your head and talk to the guy. You're in the same room.
And being and just being suckers.
Like, God damn it. So I'm going to restart that a little. That's the moment. That's the part that needs to break through. The bigger hit things, like this losers and suckers thing that Trump called dead American soldiers losers or suckers, one or the other. And it was two different things where he said that. Corpses of dead Americans in a French graveyard he called losers and suckers. And it was verified by Fox News. It was verified by the Atlantic reporters. Do we have a tape of it? No. Trump said it was 25 witnesses didn't say that. He said that it was 25. That's not a reputable source. It turned out it was actually about 14. Some said most just said he didn't say it, that were Trump toadies. A few, like John Bolton, who I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw him. I don't know where that line ever came from. Where people must have been so bored they just tried to throw each other around. But anyway, the only reason that has any credibility is in this particular thing is that Bolton has come out against Trump, which is stunning because Bolton is this warmongering neocon psychopath. But Bolton has written a book against Trump because he had such a horrible time working with Trump, as has so many other people in his cabinet, that he wouldn't defend. It's unlikely that he would defend Trump if he actually did say that. Now, he didn't say he didn't say it. He said, I didn't hear him say that. So that's not a denial. That's just saying I wasn't there. I wasn't close enough. But Biden stammers his way through this one and doesn't hit this well. And it's such a fucking mistake to put this guy up against Trump.
You talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
So he is talking about Bo, and in this country, the veteran worship and the veteran label and the way politicians conjure this deeply ingrained sense of patriotism that you've got that was probably locked into you from older relatives and the Pledge of Allegiance, this ritualistic cult forming brainwashing that schools do to children, the constant hammering away at the national anthem at every sporting event, and put your hand over your heart, and we're going to fly over weapons of war to make you feel cool. I mean, hey, listen, those are cool planes. And I'm not saying the veterans don't deserve your respect for being willing to take risks for your freedom. Now, they haven't been used to defend your freedom in decades. There's not been a single American conflict that had anything to do with your freedom. It had to do with the United Fruit Company's freedom to murder and exploit indigenous workers in Guatemala. It had to do with the freedom for corporations to maintain power and access to cheap labor markets, pliable governments that are going to look the other way when they're polluting and when someone, oh gee, sorry, did that machine collapse and kill somebody? Oh, oops. Well, it's a good thing that we're all golf buddies, aren't we there, Mr. Minister of Employment here in such and such country? And to make sure that they have access to minerals and raw materials, both for their own benefit and to keep them away from the hands of the enemy, like rivals, China and Russia and other bigger potential world superpowers, countries that have leverage over smaller countries. So we are always cast at. The spell is casted of soldiers and veterans. So whenever politicians are talking about veterans, they're manipulating you. And the right does that incredibly well. They do it so well. Biden's kid actually went to, as I said, he went to war and got hurt in a war fighting. So that's actually more legitimacy for him to take such umbrage over this. And he uses Bo's death and Bo's life as a political tool for him. He's got his flag in his background. Not that he shouldn't respect his kid's coffin flag, but I find that all kind of off-putting. But I also think that showing umbrage and getting defensive about a son who was wounded in war and then came home and died of brain cancer in his 40s or something, I can respect that. So I actually think that the passion that Biden is showing in this bit, I'm going to rewind it a little bit before we restart, is effective for people watching this who are unsure of what to make of either of these two guys. So let's just rewind just a touch. We'll go forward again.
Spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes.
Okay. All right. Sorry. You know what? I had to fix a sound issue there real quick. I don't remember where I was, but let's just keep going. We'll see where we go.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking? So Trump immediately knows that this is like red meat for his fans. They've been hammering away on Hunter Biden for years, and especially since he became the nominee, it was like a gift to Trump for Trump to have to talk about Hunter Biden, because Trump is corrupt. Trump is globally corrupt, and he has been for I almost said centuries. Probably going to be centuries. He's probably a vampire that will never die for decades, and his kids are, and they're pulling all sorts of shady shit all over the world. Look into the ways that they have manipulated their deals with China to get themselves trademarks for their own personal profit. It's disgusting. But Trump benefits from the volume, the quantity of his bullshit. He is a volcano of bullshit. There is so much there, and it never ends. And he knows that, and he uses that. He would appear more corrupt if he did less corruption. He benefits from it being such an insane maelstrom that you never wrap your head around it. Because to actually understand something takes time. And especially things that are a little confusing, like financial shenanigans. You have to be able to dig in, and you have to listen to experts, and you have to gain different perspectives, and you have to have some knowledge, and it's esoteric and all that other stuff. And he just keeps flinging it out there. If you ever see a monkey at a zoo take a shit, he's like that, but it's endless. You could make $1 million with a monkey with infinite shit. There probably was a thing in the 1800s during those traveling carnivals and stuff. So he goes, really? So you're talking about Hunter? You talking about Hunter? So he just immediately knows that he can pivot to Hunter. And Biden's been falling for this the whole debate too, where he actually responds to Trump as if he's taking him on in good faith. Where Trump will ask him a question, and he'll be like, "No, that's not the." Like, well, why are you even acknowledging him unless you are doing it in a controlled way where your position is being advanced, not just immediately accepting Trump's framing. Part of the reason is because Biden is a fucking conservative Democrat. He's used to these kinds, and maybe not someone of Trump's wizard caliber, but he's one of them. He's just a little bit more okay with abortion than most Republicans are. Biden is a very conservative person in so many ways. So Trump immediately brings up Hunter, and Biden is hoping to score points here on the loser and calling them suckers and losers thing, which should be a massive thing. It should be career ending for any politician to do that in this country, especially. And Biden thinks by invoking Hunter's service, Beau Biden's service and death, that he can use this as a cudgel. But Trump has this, evil judo that he's able to do, and immediately flips it onto Hunter. And now we start talking about Hunter Biden, who had a cocaine problem, and he was on the board of Burisma in the Ukraine. I think it's a gas company, oil and gas. I mean, the problem with this is it's true. It's fucking corruption. Hunter Biden got those jobs because his last name was Biden, and he was Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States' son. Absolutely true. And it's so irresponsible of the Obamas of the world, there's two of them, I guess. There's really one. But I mean, Michelle and him are kind of a dual team. Tom Perez in charge of the DNC, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the strategists, and the consultants at the Democratic Party when they engineered the Super Tuesday slaughter of Bernie, because they were terrified of Bernie having a good night then. And Bernie still had a really tough road to go as far as becoming the nominee if he were to have gotten through Super Tuesday. But when they got Buttigieg to drop out and Klobuchar to drop out, and so they all just lined up behind Biden, and they picked. It's like you're at the horse track and you're like, oh shit, we can't let this lefty horse go up there. People really like that. They're gonna, if we let this persuasive old crotchety man get this position, he's gonna talk even more people into liking it because it's fucking persuasive for him to just keep repeating the same things over and over and over as he has his entire career, because it's ideologically consistent with his worldview and with what's true. That's the problem. That's one of the reasons Bernie's so persuasive, because you go Google it and you start to learn about how this world's constructed, and you're like, oh yeah, wow, he's right. It's verifiable. So they were terrified of that. The Democratic Party's main job this year in 2020 was to defeat Bernie Sanders. Don't ever think otherwise. It's important to beat Trump, but they've already achieved their primary goal, because Bernie would have destroyed Trump. Bernie up here against Trump. The thing about Bernie is he has survived and done extremely well in this Washington culture, this viper pit of the most snaky sociopaths in the world. Like, the American political system is sort of just like what's one of those talent shows? What's the one where Kelly Clarkson came out of? It's like The World's Got Talent, but for psychopaths and sociopaths. And Bernie Sanders has gone from being just a small-time goofy little guy in rural. Why did I not know where the hell he's from? Vermont. Jesus, I was like, my brain was going Maine or Massachusetts. I was like, no, neither one of those are right, brain. And he's dramatically climbed far and using the same messaging, basically. Bernie would up there, because Bernie would probably get pissed off, and Bernie is very authentic, and Bernie would have, I think it would have been fascinating to watch, and I actually think I'd much rather be helping to explain democratic socialism and socialism to people, because if Bernie were the candidate, there'd be just this utter freak out about that, driven by just deliberate ignorance on that topic anyway. But all right, so I can no point dwelling on that. So Biden immediately falls into it, but now we're talking about Hunter. Here is Trump. Trump pulls another wizard move.
On Bo Biden, you're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got
Bo.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter. So all of a sudden he just gets to launch into Hunter.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
I don't know if it was dishonorable or not. He did get caught with cocaine in the Navy, I believe.
vice
That is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow.
In China, just like him and his fucking kids are. Ivanka has all kinds of business dealings in China. He has properties through. He was working on businesses and building up in Taiwan, and China has a contentious relationship regarding Taiwan. They still consider Taiwan to be part of the mainland, to belong to it, and it's actually a potential flashpoint for would tip off World War III or something like that, because China could potentially get aggressive towards Taiwan. But Trump pulled back on all his Taiwan dealings after pulling some bullshit with the Chinese officials. So we call these, the right wing would want you to think that these are the enemies. The China is America's enemy, except the leader of the country has nothing but plenty of profits to be made by doing business with them. Real consistent.
Is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son.
He made a fortune and he didn't have a job. That's just tactically irresponsible for them to have put Biden into this position with this history, with his family history of this corruption. He's nowhere near as corrupt and as much of a scumbag as Donald Trump is. But he's gotten extremely rich. Well, Biden is worth like $11-ish million. Very, very wealthy for a public servant. And the smallness of his family's corruption is easier to understand. It's not this global web of confusion and tax shelters and tricky accounting practices and changing laws internationally, and it's not that. It's a much more simple thing. Oh, they wanted to gain some favor with the vice president, with the American government, so they put the guy's kid on their board. It's insane. It is so. I will never forgive, and man, God, I hope Biden becomes president, because Trump has got to go, and the apparatus that he represents and has in place. If Biden doesn't survive this, I could never forgive the fucking Obamas and the string pullers of the Democrats for putting him into this and putting us into this position. I don't give a shit about Biden's health or his future. I mean, I care if he's going to have power and nuclear weapons to launch whenever he feels like it. So it matters. That's what dawned on me not dawned, but that's what was coming up to my thinking last night, was just how utterly reckless the Democratic Party is with our lives, with your stress, with your life. Putting up fucking Hillary Clinton because it's her turn. She's a horrible candidate in 2016. Just not the right person for that at all. And then Biden, the worst possible person to run up. I was just watching this going, why can't this be Klobuchar? She's funny. She's a stand-up comedian. She's got jokes. She did her hair in she had Blizzard or something. She eats salad with a comb. By the way, how is a comb better than your fingers? Look, eating food with your fingers kind of sucks if you're not used to it, and maybe sometimes you just have no utensil. But if you have nothing else, you have millions of years of evolution in picking up food and putting it in your mouth. You don't need to use a fucking comb. Unless you need to poke something, in which case I would peel off a few of the comb tines. What if I became like a comb guy? I'm a comb artist. Haha, yes, I'm bald. Isn't it ironic? You should see my back. Why can't my balls be bald? Buttigieg, that little worm. I can't stand that fucking guy. He's such a. He went to. He volunteered to go to. I think he served in Afghanistan for like a month as like an officer or something, reserve. He didn't see any. I don't know if he saw any. I don't think he saw any combat. He wasn't like a real like get in there and poop in your helmet kind of soldier. He was doing it for political reasons. He'd already had a career at McKinsey when he did that, and had political ambitions. So I'm very skeptical about his motivations, and he was a total snake during the campaign. But he would be so much better than Biden right now. Quite frankly, I would almost like Biden to hit that health wall here, and Kamala has to step in. I have major problems with her, but my God, she would do so much better than Biden in these kinds of settings.
Like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he?
So, you know, there is that like completely disgusting Trumpism there. You know, it's classy though. You know, he's such a classy man. He's got a nice garden at his house. Got a wife who upholds all the classiness that is embodied in the American spirit. His whole family is just nothing but dignified tributes to the greatness of a chosen people. So classy that when a guy mentions a son who went to war, got wounded, came home and died of cancer, the correct response is to say, your other son's a cokehead. Your other son's a cokehead, and he's a corrupt cheater. So disgusting these guys are. Like, it would be political malpractice on Trump's side if he didn't go after Biden because of Hunter Biden's Burisma and business corruptions. Hunter Biden's drug issue is his own personal business. You know, and Biden could actually, as he sort of did right there, was saying he fought it and he's over it. I'm proud of him, etc. I had to deal with an alcohol issue. I mean, I have great compassion for addiction. Alcohol is a drug. Calling it drugs and alcohol is one of those weird ways of being like, oh, alcohol is different than a drug. No, it's a drug. Caffeine's a drug. Drugs are whatever. I don't need to start rambling about that. But I really truly understand addiction because I had one. And have. I mean, it's a thing. It's like you manage over time. It's not like it's ever really goes away. And if anybody in their own family has issues with this, I would highly recommend Johan Hari, just as a side note, JOHANNHARI. He's a very sensitive man. He's a writer guy, but he has he's done a great job, I believe, of communicating about the sources of addiction, and it actually, in his sort of thesis, he's not a researcher himself, he's a journalist, but his and an author. But so his thesis is basically that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but the opposite of addiction is connection. So it's largely driven by social disconnections, and he does it's very persuasive. So Johan Hari on like TED Talks and podcasts, and you can find it. Just Google it, but really helpful stuff. So. Biden is doing this, but guess what? Also, Biden's done over his career: put away people for drugs, put away people because he was one of the primary architects of the mass incarceration bill. So there's millions of people whose families were torn apart because of the way Biden approached the drug issue in this country. That's part of his. You might even say that's what's conservative about him, in a sense, is that he might have a different approach to it now. I doubt it would be like me and my pal Johan Hari would go for. In terms of how you treat drugs, but he might have gained some compassion about drugs after having a family member deal with it, which is like a classic conservative move. They don't really comprehend it until it happens in their own family. Even then, it's give or take. But so, it's good to hear this said into a camera on live TV. Let's just rewind it a touch and start it again.
Had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions of dollars?
But he wasn't given tens of millions of dollars. That is totally,
Like what's so weird about this shot, if you're not watching this, Biden is just staring at the camera, and he answers. He wasn't given tens of millions of dollars without changing his head. Turn and look at Trump. It just looks weird.
Trump, we've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million.
See, look how quick Trump is, man. He's not. I don't think he's a dumb motherfucking idiot. He's a imbecile and a moron. But there is some kind of, like, the chart of his, you know how when they like study space and stuff, you'll see like, oh, this is the data, and then there's a spike, and we go like, look, see that spike? There's a lot of information in that spike, and we know that because of that spike of now, like that means that is mostly lithium, or we know that is the dip in the light intensity of a sun or of a star we've been watching, and therefore we know that a planet passed in front of that, and if we actually get, you know, there's a, oops, sorry, Trump is like, his intelligence is like this little background hum, barely above grasshopper, but there are spikes of, I hate to say brilliance. It's not brilliant. I don't mean to be a positive, but he uses it. He's a con man. He's got this kind of social manipulation thing because it served him so well. How could he not be like this? He's him. And he's the most powerful person in the world. He's that guy. So, of course, it's been reinforced over time that this is what works. So why wouldn't he just be this instinctive monster making everybody around him nervous?
Right.
From the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So it all.
Okay, it's a little out of order. I obviously can tell we already talked about climate change. I'm not doing every topic here anyway. So this is the one that caught a lot of wind online. Trump's refusal to deny white supremacists. So we're already coming up on a kind of a long show as is. So I'm not going to over belabor this. We have one fun thing at the end here. So hang in there. You know you're doing a good podcast when you're like, please don't leave. Please just stay. At least let's get a photo. This is the part where Trump refused to condemn white supremacists, and in the exact same breath, well, I guess you don't really use a breath to refuse something. Okay, what am I doing? He also gives orders to the Proud Boys, which is a violent right-wing, far-right gang. I don't know how far they are, to be honest. The leader of the fucking country is telling them what to do in a debate. Is that really far? Far right makes it sound like it's not normalized. It's fucking normalized. When the person in charge of the country gives them orders at a debate, that's not far. That's where we are as a country. That's where we are right now. And it's repulsive. It's reprehensible. Let's just listen. I'm sure I'll have a bunch of nonsense to scream at you.
Really criticize the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups.
I hate that. I fucking hate that Antifa and other left. It's not. It's very annoying. Everybody on the left rolls their eyes and has to deal with this Antifa. They've basically just turned in like how they made you scared of caravans and the caravans coming up from Mexico to get you. They needed a domestic boogeyman to go after you with, and they chose Antifa. In a very simple marketing kind of consumer level, it is utterly idiotic that they call them. Not that there is a they anyway, but the notion of like embracing the word Antifa, which sounds like very othering. Hey, and I'm not saying we shouldn't embrace others, and I obviously this goes. I want different. I feel like I've talked myself into a trap here. Call it anti-fascists. I am a member of anti-fascism. Okay, good. I understand what you are. You explain the word that you used is understandable to me, a person who's never heard of that before. I am a member of Antifa. What the fuck is that? That sounds scary. I've never heard that word before. What is that? I heard that was something weird. My cousin, who drives a forklift, said that he read on Facebook that Antifa is killing people. That wait, Antifa has like that's what they're going to. It's just, it's such a mistake. It's such a colossal fucking mistake. Not to say that it's one person sat down and wrote a memo or just made a decision exactly like that. It doesn't. I don't think it works anywhere near that simplistically. But there could be an effort to say, hey, let's pull back on the Antifa and let's add the SCISTS to the word. Why did they make part of it silent? And that you have to be in the know in order to grasp it. It's just such a... anyway. You shouldn't have to do that, but we live in this fucking world. That's my point. It's not to say that what I'm saying is because I know exactly what's right. I'm saying because I know people are stupid. And you need to be able to no one's persuaded. People need simplistic stuff. Not strange words that they've never heard that can be easily weaponized by the right. And they would have found something else if this were the case too. It's horrifying. Meaning like people support, they think that Antifa's out killing and marauding and causing all kinds of violence. Of course it's projection. Of course the right wing and the white supremacist movements and the various iterations of it are the number one threats to this country domestically. And it's also the reason why the Trump administration defunded the program that was trying to work on helping young men get out of that. You know, they trap people with, they coerce them at young ages. There's lots of research and journalism around the process for radicalizing young folks into these movements using online stuff. Man, I'm starting to sweat. It's about 12:30 right now, and LA is supposed to be in the like upper 90s for the next few days. It's been nothing but sweaty lately. So I'm starting to get miserable. It's nice miserable afternoons these days. All right, let's go.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that.
specifically
Sure, I'm willing to do that, but I won't do that.
But
Do it.
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing.
All the bullshit that he has heard. Why? Like, that's so weird. It's just something so fucked up that everything I see, well, if he sees it, it's true. But people like, well, of course he heard it. This guy wouldn't. It's so strange that the way it's hard to articulate because it's so subtle. It's just like his perception of reality just is the story. There's no. He said it. Everything he sees. I mean, I'm trying to put my head in the mind of one of his supporters.
Not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
I want to see peace. Will you condemn white supremacists? I want peace. Will you condemn white supremacists? I want peace. That's a no.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Trump challenges me, or Biden challenges me. Pauses for a second.
You want to call him? What do you want to call?
Now, okay, so this is part of this fucking manipulator moves here. Like he's pressing the Y button, holding down the left thumbstick at the same time right now, pulling a move on in his battle game here. What do you want me to say? You tell me. He turns it on you. Who do you dislike? And I will say something about them. So listen carefully. We probably will go back over this, but I'll let it play through some here.
Call him. Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys.
All right. So now he's about to say the thing about the Proud Boys. Here's his thing. We'll just play it.
Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what.
That's their new slogan.
Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
Okay, that's an order to commit violence. So listen to Chris Wallace. I'm rewinding. And
What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
So Chris Wallace says white supremacists.
Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
And I think he said that right wing.
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys.
Who said Proud Boys? I can't.
Proud Boys.
Okay, I think it's Wallace. Sorry, this might be terrible audio. Maybe it's interesting. I don't know.
Would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right.
Oh, I think Trump said Proud, or Jesus, Biden said Proud Boys.
Would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists.
Yeah, Biden. Sorry. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. I should have done this like before. So Biden says Proud Boys right there. So he hears Proud Boys, and then he loads up the Proud Boys file in his brain. And he says, stand back and stand by. Basically, like a general saying, hold, hold, hold. I'm in charge of you. He's their leader. That's what that is. And they're celebrating all over online. They're putting this slogan into their graphics already. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see regular Trump people, that is to say the good Germans of America, the good Americans right now who go to his rallies and who support this stuff. I would not be shocked to start seeing standing back and standing by versions of that on T-shirts. And I mean, because if there's ever one consistent thread throughout the conservative movement, they're always grifting their supporters. They're always selling stickers and T-shirts and buttons and books and TV shows and shit like that. They're always news. And it's just an enormous amount of profit to be made. Buckets of apocalypse food. So Biden goes Proud Boys, and now Trump loads up the Proud Boys file and doesn't condemn, just gives them an enormous recruiting tool. And because now the New York Times and these other fucking establishment outlets are going to be doing articles about who they are, and aren't they all so dapper like they did for Richard Spencer, a Nazi. Big Trump supporter, of course. So, one more time. I'm not going to replay it after this one.
And right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a.
So, okay. So now we get into a part where I've seen on Twitter a little bit the quotes. People are quoting Biden for saying what he's about to say. I don't know if it's fully in this clip here, so forgive me. Let's just play it first, make sure.
This is a left-wing
white supremacist.
Okay, so he's quoting. I am going to rewind a little bit. He's quoting Trump's FBI director. I think it's the director, but it's some bigwig report came out of the FBI about the threat that white supremacists pose to this country, and they clarified something about Antifa here. And it's one of the more honest things Biden said. Of course, he's quoting someone else, and he made sure to say it afterwards so no one would mistake it for his own words. The part where he says Antifa is an idea, not an organization.
This is a left-wing
white supremacist. Antifa is an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not malicious. That's what his FBI director said.
Well, then, you know.
So, like, I'm glad that he said that. I'm glad that he said Antifa is an idea, not an organization. You know who's a big proponent of Antifa? Dwight Eisenhower, FDR, Harry Truman, every soldier that went to Normandy. They were fighting fascism against that idea. The idea of fascism. God, what a wasted opportunity just to call yourselves anti-fascists. Jesus Christ. It's an idea, right? Well, what idea is it? Okay, well, let's explain it. It's not that complicated, by the way. It's not hard to explain. But just put the fucking explanation in the word. Again, I know it's not a centralized thing. That's part of why it doesn't do that. But, I mean, the word Antifa is kind of cool sounding. If I had a little club with my buds and we were going to go on comic book adventures, I might be like, we're the Antifas. Or maybe like a sewing club of women whose siblings had children. The Queen Latifah's. Okay. Just listen to this one more time. It's a little muddled, and then we'll move on from this shit.
Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not malicious. That's what his FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
We're done.
Okay. Now we're done. So it was just these three bickering old toadies. Toadies, right? I don't know if that's the right word for that. But okay, next day. Evening. This is in the recaps afterwards. I only caught this on Twitter. I didn't really watch any of the recaps. I did watch Majority Report and some Chapo on Twitch. Guys, check out my Twitch. I drew a pig. I drew a pig and played some Rocket League. You can go watch it all right now. Twitch.tv/winners and losers. I really like it though. I'm getting some creative ideas for doing stuff. You can see my shrimp collection. I call it a collection. I call them the Shrimp Squad. Check out it. Go give it a look. Seriously, or maybe just go click on follow if you really don't care, but you feel like helping out this Hank guy who puts hours and hours of work into every single podcast. Just go click on follow on Twitch. I don't even think you. Well, you probably do need an account. But it's a befuddling environment, that Twitch. You click on a bunch of stuff and it just seems insane. But I'm kind of watching Ben Dixon's show on there, and I can see how Ben's using the technology. And there's a show called The Surfs. It seems like they're doing pretty good political stuff. So there's a budding, if not already budded, environment for this kind of podcasting and this kind of talk and stuff. So I do graphics and animation and video games and talk politics. And on Suck Professor on YouTube, one of my other things, I like to talk movies and shit. And Twitch seems like it'd be like a really good hub for all of that. So I'm kind of really starting to be intrigued by this idea. If I can't shake an idea, it generally means I'm going to give it a go at some point. So one thing I got to do is probably get on camera, partially why I'm trying to eat better. I've lost about 5 pounds in my, it's good. All right, here's Rick Santorum. Basically, this guy, if you don't know, he is a hardcore Christian fundamentalist whack job. Therefore, you shouldn't trust anything he says, to be honest. But in this case, he explains exactly what's going on in a way that it does not serve the conservative movement, or there's no spinning this. Trump is a white supremacist, and he wants the white supremacist vote. And he wants the people who are comfortable with white supremacy as a movement. They might not even realize it. It's just baked into American culture. It's so woven into the fabric of this society that it's so normalized. Whiteness is a hell of a thing. It is incredible. There's so much more for me to learn about it. Obviously, a lot to say. I've been white most of my life. No, it's just not true. More kind of a translucent pink, if anything. But let's listen to Rick Santorum.
Where he was asking the president to do something that he knows the president doesn't like to do. Which is say something bad about people who support him.
So that's the politician answer, but I think this might be, and it's one of the CNN people. So she pushes him a little on it.
Right?
What, declining violence?
Well, talking about
the white
supremacy?
The white supremacists, number one. And number two, ask.
I didn't get the rest of that. I mean, this is a Twitter clip. So one more time, since I interrupted that a little bit.
Right?
What, declining violence?
Well, talking about
the white
supremacy?
The white supremacists, number one. And number two,
white supremacists are.
Say something bad about people who support him. Bad about people who support him.
White supremacists are.
People who support him.
White supremacists are.
People who support him.
There you go. Donald Trump is supported by the white supremacists. That's him. That's their people. And a massive percentage of his current support comes from people who may not comprehend white supremacy or have done a lot of investigating or learning about it themselves by reading books, articles, documentaries, etc. But that they have an intuitive sense that the world belongs to white people. That there's a threat to power if we allow more people to have a seat at the table. But add to that their notion of authoritarianism, which means that they only comprehend power in terms of domination and subjugation. So to them, losing power means being subjugated. And that's part of the challenge, I think, for the left is to persuade them that that's not the case. We need to make the case that no, we want everybody's voice to matter because everybody matters. Therefore, yes, you would have less power because it would be distributed fairly, real equality, real justice. And but they can only model a potential power as drastic imbalance. Because when have you ever known balance and power in life? When you're a kid, your parents have almost total power over you, especially if you're brought up in an abusive home or some kind of, disordering kind of childhood. There's all sorts of ways childhood can fuck with your head, of course. You've had bosses your whole life that had power over you. When did you ever? How many people are in unions or have any voice on the job? Very rarely. So most people's lives are conducted with drastic power imbalances, and they just take it. You're supposed to take it. Be a good worker. Don't you think independently? So yeah, that's just kind of explaining it all right there. I could ramble on and on about the debate. Let me see if there's anything else in my notes that I wrote that might be. I've known white people my whole life. Heck, I've even been one. There's nothing supreme about us, which is why we have to yell it at you and pay big men with guns and cages to attack anyone who challenges this idea. Okay, I wrote that. Way to go. How many white supremacists? Wouldn't it be better if it was just like a small group? Oh yeah, those white supremacists, like that. That's a sign the world is getting better. We're healing from all these ancient superstitions and systems of in-group and out-group, stabilized in-group and out-groups, so that only a small in-group gets to call the shots and that dominates over a much larger out-group. But it's kind of unfortunate that white supremacy is a voting bloc in this country. And they're not just a voting bloc, they're a voter suppression. They will do violence. They love their violence. There's a reason. It's not hard to find videos and other evidence of cops escorting the Proud Boys around and protecting them, and explaining things, being friendly and jovial with them, because they're on the same team. The police are ideologically in line. That's why most of the police unions, I don't know if it's most or all or what the percentage is, but have endorsed Trump. They shouldn't be endorsing anybody. Because they're civic. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. Maybe it's okay for them to, I don't know. Maybe they should be allowed to endorse. I don't know. Because I would say teachers should be allowed to endorse. Why shouldn't cops? But maybe you could add to that, they're violent, meaning by nature, they're designed to be the aggressive claws of the monster, so to speak. They're the ones that actually go out and bust people. I don't know. It's so dumb. Yeah. The whole thing about law and order, though, too, that was brought up. There's a lot of this. He won't say it. He won't say it. He won't say he won't say law enforcement. He won't say law and order. That is so juvenile. Trump does it. The left. My God, Biden's not the left. Biden does it. Liberals. There's this soundbite culture that exists in this society that's obnoxious. Oh, he said it. Oh, he refuses to say it. All this, well, will he or won't he? Should she say it or not? She used the phrase and she didn't use the phrase. And I can kind of understand why a politician might get caught up in having to think about that. Messaging is a huge part of their jobs, during election years especially. So it's not completely ununderstandable, but I really just would prefer to live in a world where that didn't matter. Who gives a fuck if he says it or not? It's just these ways of signaling. You might as well just hold up a card with words on it just to make some kind of strange, I'm not sure what you do. When Trump held up that Bible, he was signaling. I guess signaling is the word I was looking for there. What else did I write here? Biden had a terrible answer on mail-in ballots. Trump's whole family votes by mail. Trump votes by mail, and he has for a long time. Pence is voting by, they're all voting by mail. Biden's answer sucked. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just wrote down that it was bad. Biden just, all he had to do was answer every question. This law and order stuff, this kind of justice, racial. They did a segment on racial justice. Nothing like three old racists standing around talking about black people. Huh? That's a nice way to signal to the country that their voices really don't matter. I'm just assuming Chris Wallace is a racist. He's worked for Fox News for 30 or 40 years. Of course he is. Allegedly. But all Biden had to do in those answers was say, law and order? Sure, let's talk about that. Donald Trump's family has committed such and such crimes. He doesn't get in trouble. Breonna Taylor didn't do anything. She was asleep. And she was murdered in her bed by a gang that infiltrated her home. And she didn't, all he had to do was turn every answer into a tour through the giant mansion of corruption that is Trump's entire life. But Biden can't do that. He's not nimble. He's not smart enough to do that. I mean, by smart, I mean the decline. Old Biden may have been. But also because he's got corruption in his family, with his kids. And we don't call this corruption. We don't call him and his wife being paid so generously for work after speeches and appearances. That's not considered corruption in this country, but you can accrue millions and millions of dollars because you held a public office, and that's somehow we don't consider that to be corrupt. So I do. Yeah. All right. Well, something about Trump won the diarrhea battle. Biden won the, and I didn't finish that sentence there. Trump's a difficult monster to fight. Biden's just not equipped. Yeah, Biden is. He's just like if oil became a human being. You can't get him. You punch him, and you think you might have touched him, but it turns out you're just going to have a slimy hand when you pull your hand back, and he's reforming back into place. He's like the Terminator guy, the silver metal Terminator guy. It turns into a cop. He's like him, but with just like rotten oil, with like clumps of petroleum with hair in it, and like a little skulls of small birds and mammals and tiny lizards that have fallen into the pit that have somehow become part of his articulated internal structure. And it's all this malleable ooze pile. He's just such a slimy, disgusting, and he's got this wizardry that I keep using that word, this sorcery, it's effective because America is filled with people who have trust issues, meaning they don't know who to trust or what to believe, and they're replaced their ignorance. They confuse their emotions for facts, and their ignorance becomes confidence. So they have certainty about what they believe, because that's also, I think, kind of indicates a religious propensity where you'd prefer to have kind of a certain explanation than I'm very comfortable with uncertainty. My whole life's kind of been pretty uncertain anyway, but I think just by nature, I'm kind of like, yeah, well, I don't know. Like, why would you, isn't it worse to just tell yourself some bullshit than to just to be like, I'm 60% confident. That seems like I would bet. I would win 6 out of 10 times on that one. I'm 90% confident. Like some things I'm pretty certain about. Some things I'm less. 20. I don't know. Seems... it's just weird. Just weird to me. Trump mesmerizes and exhausts. All right. Okay, real quick. The morning after this, I was actually working on all these videos this morning to get ready. And Nancy Pelosi turned up on the super left-wing liberal network, Microsoft National Broadcasting Corporation. On the morning show, one of the prime slots. This is a mainstay. This is a staple of every media diet in Washington. And anybody who cares about politics, I DVR it and I watch it 4 times every day. The Morning Joe Show, starring 2 Republicans, a former congressman from the, I don't know if Mika Brzezinski's a Republican or not. I imagine she probably is. Maybe she's good. But she's a DC Democrat if she is, whatever. Like they're both just, this is like the Carville Mary Madeline marriage. These are not liberals. These are not lefties. They're like dyed in the wool. I'm pretty sure she's conservative in general. But this is MSNBC. Liberal MSNBC has a show hosted by a right-wing talk show host and a right-wing, same guy, right-wing conservative congressperson. He's got nice hair. I guess that's why he has a career. I don't understand how these people have fucking careers. It's insane. So I'm not even gonna. I'm just gonna play the opening bit here.
So, Madam Speaker, I've written down a couple of things really quickly about what Donald Trump said last night, and I'm curious what the response should be from our elected leaders, especially governors in affected states. He told violent white supremacists and anti-Semites to stand by. Trump and his family called for armies of people to crowd voting locations. And then he said last night he wanted to add to the Supreme Court. So we'll have one more vote. Of course, that would be for efforts to block Americans' votes from being counted. What should our public elected officials do, whether they're in Congress or whether you're the governor of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina? What should they be doing to prepare for this onslaught, this challenge to the counting of every vote?
Well, let us hope that it...
So she's not the person to be giving advice to governors or any state officials. Nancy Pelosi's tenure in Congress has been absolutely tragic for state representation in state governments. It's I don't know the numbers exactly, but it's hundreds. It's like her losing, not that she's in charge of all of it, but as a leader, she could have worked to coordinate and to build up a, in response to the horrors of the Bush administration is what I'm kind of like there was why Obama won. I mean, there was a fervent desire and hope and demand for, here's a big word, change. We wanted change. And what Nancy Pelosi, under her leadership, under Obama's leadership, you could argue they were busy in Washington dealing with the Republicans. Okay, fine. I personally think that's letting them off the hook. But they presided over an enormous ceding, CEDEING, if that's proper, to Republicans in state races and in representation in the governorships and in, state houses and senates and stuff. She's an absolute nightmare and a tragic loss of, a tragic neglect is a better word, of this potential for actually helping American society. So this is just a horrible, not that really matters to what this question is. So let's listen to a little bit of her answer, but there is one part I want to skip way ahead of too, and we're going to just talk about that part.
Really does not materialize. There are 3 stages. I don't have to tell you, 2 elections, the period leading up, and that's the period in which we also have early voting, what happens on election day, and that's the cautionary warning that you are giving us, and then what happens after in the counting of the votes. The integrity of our elections must be maintained, Democratic or Republican. The result will be respected, but Republican and Democratic governors throughout the country, I don't know what real role that they have, unless we're talking about just stopping the violence that the president is trying to invoke. But I do know that he is intimidating people.
It's amazing that we can just be like that. The violence that the president isn't trying to, like, that just said, the president is literally calling for violence, calling up for poll watchers, which is voter suppression, and you use the police and to use armed militias to intimidate voters. He's told the Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes is known for calling directly for violence. If you go to my Twitter or go to Vic Berger's Twitter, I retweeted Vic Berger. He's a well-known, kind of comedic editor guy. He's got an interesting style, and his videos get a lot of attention. But someone from the Proud Boys showed up at his house because they were pursuing, I don't know what the fuck, why. I mean, they're violent. And he made a thing, I retweeted it, of Gavin McInnes, the founder, who's also the co-founder of Vice News with Shane Smith. I don't know if either of those guys are still involved with that company. I know Gavin McInnes is not. I don't think. He might have some sort of small stake or something. Who knows? But these guys are violent people that the president is literally telling to stand by. It's just amazing how normalized that is. Okay, so that's fine. Whatever Nancy said, it's just all bullshit. So here's the part that people were sharing on Twitter and talking about. Let's rewind just to hear what she says. Here we go. Let's just listen to this. You'll understand it when you hear it.
And that's when he starts talking about, well, I'll take it to the House of Representatives. What is this? What is this about the Republicans, that they don't care enough about what they believe in as a party, a legitimate party with beliefs and their view of the role of government? And we know, you and I have had that debate ourselves in Congress, Joe, but it's existed since the beginning of our country. So I pray that they would get us a grand old party again. What they say to me, not the ones in Congress, because they're fully wedded to Trump. Because any issue you can name, they're there with Trump. Name any issue. Name immigration and gun safety, a woman's right to choose, LGBTQ, fairness in our economy, denial on the climate and the rest of that. That's all who they've been longer than Trump. He's their guy. So from a philosophical policy standpoint, he's their guy. But from a decency standpoint, that's not who the Republican Party in this country is. And
yes, it is. Why is policy and decency completely separate topics? From a policy standpoint, he's for all these horrible things. But from a decency standpoint, that's not who they are. Because you have nice conversations with them and their kids at fucking cocktail parties or something. I don't think they actually go to a lot of cocktails. That used to be the case, probably. But these people are all in the same goddamn club. The thing that people were pointing out, I'm going to rewind it. We'll get back to this. Put a marker down. So
they would.
So here's the part where she's praying.
So I pray that they would get us a grand old party again.
Pray. She's praying that we could have the grand old party. We want you. We want you back. Really? This is the fucking leader of the Democrats. Her message the day after, I think I probably said all this right at the beginning of the show, years ago when we started this podcast. The day after this horrifying display of this autocrat dictator wannabe calling for violence after 4 years of constant stress, and the leader of the Democrats goes on TV and says she prays to bring back the Republicans that we miss. The GOP, we need to bring back. Is this seriously the thing that is the problem in the country? Has the GOP lost its fucking mind? Absolutely. But no, they really haven't. They have evolved into what they really are. This is just a more, like, this is the locust form of the grasshopper. And I honestly don't know if that's actually a thing or not. And I need to look that up because it's also too simplistic for this metaphor. Fascism is an extension of conservatism. It is when capitalism and conservatism starts to break down because people are starting to get wise to it not working. So the only persuasion they have is violence. The only persuasion they have is denying you rights and dividing people and bottling people into controllable units, fencing people off, othering as much as they can, and benefiting from complicit media. From media that doesn't know, that confuses neutrality for objectivity, or objectivity for neutrality. Honestly, that always gets confusing. So this is fascism. This is what America. There was pushes for this kind of stuff in the 30s. They were making common cause with the German, with the Hitler's party as he was rising up. They had a big Nazi rally in New York in the 30s. There was a group of Nazi, this is like before World War II, so this is like 30s, I think might have been late 20s or something, but they sent a delegation to America because they were inspired by the way we oppressed black people and minorities. America was an inspiration to them. The fascist Woodrow Wilson in the 20s was a staunch racist and had a huge role in popularizing Birth of a Nation, the first feature-length film. The first feature-length film of this amazing medium, this invention, movies must have been an absolute wonder to people back then, was a gigantic propaganda piece, terrifying men and women, white men and women, that a black guy was going to come for their daughters. And it was largely popularized, it was substantially popularized by the leader of the country. And that planted enormous seeds for the resurgence of the KKK. And so, this stuff has been simmering in American society forever. And they're not looking to diversify. The demographics are not in their favor. They're only going to be a minority rule kind of country where a small group of ideological extremists, the evangelicals, and their corporate backers, and they have similar goals, meaning they just want to hold on to power and prevent others from having it, into what ultimately, if they weren't obstructed, will become an ethno-state theocracy built around the cult of a quote-unquote strongman personality, an authoritarian like Trump, who's just an instinctive fool with con man powers that are unrivaled. It is one of the best. There's got to be like con men out there in the world that are just like, boy, all I do is flip quarters at a bowling alley. I should run for president. Becoming president is a con. That's a pretty good con. Let's pick up where we left off and finish what Pelosi's saying here. Then we'll get to a little fun. Okay, the fun starts.
I'm proud of people like Tom Ridge and others who have come forward.
One of the things she does all the time is, I think Tom Ridge was the speaker of he was a bigwig Republican a long time ago, I think. She loves to quote Reagan. Pelosi always quotes Reagan. It's that fetish that the Democrats have for trying to get those Republicans in the middle, those people that are concerned, like, because they never want to actually court the left, because if they did, the left, like me and Bernie supporters and the millions and millions and millions and millions of young people that are that for whom that thinking and that policy resonates, who see capitalism as the The most generous way to say it is it's time to move on. But it is a utter fucking nightmare for the most of the people who have to operate within this world, this economic system. And I lost track of my thought there, by the way. If they actually tried to court the left, they would be, first of all, it would be like if Medicare for all. It would energize voters. People would turn out to fight for Biden, to get Biden in, to push for that policy. If he was genuine and said, I'm going to fight for this, I'm going to fight for you. But they don't do any of that because the policies that people like myself would want would challenge the way power is distributed right now. And that is not their job. The billionaires who donate to Biden and Pelosi and everybody else and Schumer and all the other fuckheads, they're paying them precisely to prevent the left from having power. Now, they'd prefer that the Democrats were in charge than the Republicans, but their stock portfolios are going up under either one of those. Not to say that the left's goal is to make their stock portfolios go down. It's not it at all. There might be reordering if you had a world where people weren't suffering all the time in poverty and we actually looked after everybody and not every single dime of government spending wasn't done precisely with whether or not it makes a profit or not. So you'd see some changes in the stock market, but you'd also see enormous amounts of new investors, people with money that they didn't have before. They're looking for a place to put their money. The stock market could be a reflection of a society's priorities. This doesn't, I don't know. I was thinking about that too, like the socialist project and where it needs to go. And I think there needs to be, and I know it's out there, there's actually a lot of good academic work being done and a lot of much smarter, more educated people than myself doing the work. And it just seems like we need to kind of, instead of just talking to each other, which can be rewarding and can be comforting sometimes, right? I feel like we need to work on messaging to people who might be persuadable into it. And they would have questions like, well, how does that work? What would a company that's built around these principles look like? How would the stock market appear if this were such and such? So there's like sort of like, I think there's some technical answers, and it's, you and I are never going to be alive to see what we or anyone thinks of socialism is in this country. We might see somewhat more regulated capitalism. That might happen. And that's okay because it doesn't flip that quickly anyway. I think you're naive to think that if you got the right person in charge, suddenly you can flip a few switches, and now we have the socialist utopia we're all hoping for. It's absurd. You're out of your mind if you think that's how it works. There would be a transitionary phase from capitalism to what would be a world with markets and with businesses competing with each other. There'd be just a lot. The money distribution would take time to change, and then what would follow that was that people would gain power over their lives, and they would have more influence over their local communities and their local governments, and you'd slowly shift resources and shift priorities, and hopefully attitudes and minds would change to a world where we protect the planet and we don't let anybody fall too far behind, and we're honest about our flaws and our faults, and we say, okay, we've achieved a lot, but we still have more to do, and we work on it as groups, and you empower people to have influence over their jobs, like with a union or with board representation on the company board, or co-ops, direct ownership, direct employee ownership, or there's like funds that you can set up. Sweden, I think it was Sweden, might have been Switzerland, but they were doing this thing where like X% of privately owned, I don't know. They were gathering equity into a thing that was for public wealth. It's essentially the simplistic notion is should there be public wealth? What ratio of public to private wealth should you have? I don't think energy companies should be privately owned and managed. I think that's an utter fucking nightmare, and it's gotten people killed in California by fires starting from a company seeking profits instead of seeking people, seeking safety and okay, all right. I'm starting to lose my okay, I'm just gonna hit play. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about.
To separate themselves from this version of what is the Republican Party in the White House.
Hard to see Republicans intervening at this point after they haven't for 4 years.
Thanks for checking out MSN.
Okay. Yeah, so this version of she's like, we just need to get back. This is this is not bode well, and one of the reasons why Shahid Buttar needs to replace her. I haven't seen any polling about the San Francisco congressional race, but I'm just guessing that he's not going to win. It's really difficult to unseat an incumbent like this. I don't know. Maybe so though. I would hope so. That is like the kind of messaging you're going to hear I'm pretty sure Biden's going to do it. He's going to face a backlash for it, so he might actually curtail it somewhat. But he's going to want to rehabilitate the Republicans. Hey, look, this is just Trump. This is not all the Republicans. I'm friends with Republicans, man. I worked with them for years to deny black people rights. Oh, I mean, to deny college students' ability to, sorry, to make sure the credit card companies make a profit no matter. Yeah, hey man, come on, man. So, but that's the messaging is like this version of Republicans is not what we want. We want to see the ones. So that's because shit's good, man. You get that expensive ice cream. You get to go to those parties, get your ass kissed. Everybody laughs at your stupid jokes. I'm a poor nobody, and I get people to laugh at my dumb jokes. That's how you know I'm funny. I'm not rich and famous making people laugh. I'm making people laugh because of raw power. what a stupid thing to say. All right, that wasn't the fun part. My God. Jesus Christ, 2 hours. Oh my God, I can't believe this is what I think is going to build me a career. What the fuck is wrong with me? CNN posted this graphic, this video here. It's an animation. I actually kind of like the animation style. It is, for those of you not on video here, it's a donkey in a vest. Kind of has a Patagonia vibe to it. Sort of a jacket. Sitting on the left side of a bench. An elephant was probably a polo, but the elephant's reading a newspaper, is on the right side of the bench. And there's a nice gap between them. And behind them is a well-drawn tree with another similar bench. Makes me wish I had enough land to have a sex tree. I've always wanted a sex tree. You know, like a field, a single tree, and then you go masturbate by the tree so that your wife can't see you. Doesn't that sound fun? But CNN put this out. It's got subtitles built in, but it's in English. So just listen, and then we'll talk.
Is that an Elephonkey?
Okay, so that's the elephant talking, and an Elephonkey walks up, which is a mutant hybrid freak of a donkey bipedal with an elephant nose and tusks coming out of its face. It looks like something's gone horribly wrong.
Hey there, guys. Any room in the middle?
The donkey and the elephant on the bench both glance at the middle.
Nope. No.
The elephant puts his newspaper on the middle. The donkey follows quickly by putting his coffee cup on the middle. Because, you know, those fucking latte sipping, Volvo driving people.
Okay.
And they both cross their arms. The elephant leans back defiantly. The donkey crosses its arms.
Dokie.
Election night, November 3rd. There's no room in the middle. Like, what are they... What the...
Okie dokie.
What the fuck message are they trying to send with this shit? What are they saying? I love the idea that it's like they're saying there's just no room for reasonable people. You know? There's just no room for it. Sure, the elephant wants to destroy the planet so that billionaires can rule over violence and plague-ridden societies, developing ethno-states using religious fear and terror and fascistic manipulation of mass society of mass numbers of people until it all crumbles. So they'll get a good 50, 60 years out of a billionaire-run planet that is set up in a way to maximize pain and suffering and to monetize pain and suffering. That's what the right wants. That's what the elephant's heading towards. That's what Trump is doing. That's what Duterte is doing. That's what Bolsonaro in Brazil is doing. That's what Erdogan in Turkey is doing. But on the other hand, you got people like Jeremy Corbyn, Bernie Sanders, a lot of these European societies, even that fucking Justin Trudeau. I don't know. He's on the left per se. He's Canadian, so he's automatically nicer, I guess. They're just looking for health care. They want everybody to have a decent life. They want their work to be rewarded to a degree that they don't have to live under stress all the time. They want their children to feel safe at school. We just need to find that middle. We just need to find that. How come these two extreme sides are so unreasonable? It's just two camps. This is such an abomination and an embarrassing thing for CNN to put out. It's like if Chris Cizilla had sex with a Far Side cartoon and then had Andy Borowitz look it over. How's that for some name dropping, huh? One more time. Let's do one more time. One more full time through. It's just fun. Let's just go.
Hey, is that an Elephonkey?
Hey there, guys. Any room in the middle?
Nope.
No. Okie dokie.
Also, too, it sort of implies that the elephant and the donkey are both like they get each other. Like, oh yeah, we're both just unreasonable and unwilling to compromise and unwilling to make a. It's like you're torturing children. You're separating kids from their parents and feeding them into these Christian adoption systems. If not the detention centers, these concentration camps that America has at the border that are being staffed by private for-profit companies that hire people who are attracted to this kind of work and are the amount of abuse and sexual assault. They're harvesting uteruses. They're conducting forced hysterectomies on them. There was a whistleblower a few weeks ago about that. Dawn Wooten, I think was her name. She was a nurse who worked there. And these women, and also there's reports coming out from via the women through attorneys and people who are doing work in the legal side of that morass. That's the right. The elephant in this shot here, behind him has a doctor mutilating women against their will. The party that says they're pro-life. But the donkey side would probably stop that. But hey, we need something in the middle. It actually makes me think quite a lot of that during the protests this summer, where Joe Biden was speaking. I think he might even have been at George Floyd's funeral or something like that. But he says, hey, we could shoot him in the leg. Like that is actually the kind of compromise you would expect. Don't shoot him in the heart, shoot him in the leg. Problem solved. It's fucking ridiculous. This stuff is so frustrating. And you got this monstrous freak Elephonkey. I'm the only Elephonkey around here, okay? Emphasis on honky. I put the honky in Elephonkey. Yeah, it's horrifying. Couldn't have gone with donkey, elephant. Yeah, dolphin. Dolphin Lundgren. See, that would be too dolphiny. It'd be a swimming. Oh, God. Maybe we need a third party. I mean, I would love a more parliamentary system where we had lots more parties in this country. This two-party system is absolutely fucking crazy because it means it's just two heads of the same ghost monster that haunts us all. It's just one of the ghosts is just more aggressive and scary than the other one. But they're ideologically firmly committed to capitalism and making sure that the bosses all get rich no matter what. The billionaires making several $100 billion extra during this pandemic is not an accident. That is a system working as designed by and for billionaires and the assholes who love them. But we had a third party. What would be a good animal? So leave a comment in the comments below. Like, does the Green Party have a donkey? Like, you got the donkey, you got the elephant. What would be the Green Parties? The Toxic Avenger? Jill Stein? A dolphin? Dolphin's a good Green Party. I would say like a dolphin, but it has like a computer mouse stuck in its blowhole. And like every time it breathes, it makes like a. Sorry if that noise was a little disturbing. Those sounds could be bad inside your earbuds. I apologize. All right, I'm done. I'm so exhausted. It's already over two and a half hours of this. Thanks for getting to the end. You made it. You've defeated the boss. You may now collect your experience points and cash them in for stamina, or if you're feeling up to it, constitution. Maybe even increasing your strength or intelligence. So good times. Twitter, Twitch. I would love it if you came over on Twitch one of these times. I'm very curious to see. I think it seems I actually had a couple people leaving a few comments, and I was like, oh, okay. I kind of, if you have a little group of people watching and you can interact and they can ask you questions, or you can, I don't know. It's more interactive. And a lot of times I'm working on animations and art, drawing shit, and thinking like, okay, well, it'd be kind of cool to like highlight that. And then by involving the audience who comes over and watches me draw or make stuff or whatever, you'll kind of get a buy-in like into the animated portions that I work on. I shouldn't even be trying all that stuff. It takes so much time for the payout. It's like I'm doing this all by myself, and it gets really overwhelming. And that's one of the reasons I struggle to get the podcast out on time, is I have these other things, and it just I should just hit record, talk for 50 minutes, and call it a day, and do that 4 times a week. I don't know why I don't fucking do that. But anyway, I think I don't know. I can see a version of this where it's not just something I tinker with for a few months, but where people actually like say like, oh yeah, I remember the video where you drew that thing, and now I see it in the animation. Or I remember. I also kind of want to do like a full. I have this idea to do a Jimmy Carter animation. I want to animate Jimmy Carter holding a bag of peanuts, and then is like you can see the room behind him, and then the room is suddenly awash in an orange glow that is the nuclear detonation taking him out, and he will be the last human being to ever live, wondering why he had to sell his peanut farm. That came to me like that's a great idea. It came to me. What a jerk. What am I, David Koresh? Just thinking about like how ridiculous it is that the Trump's business interests are just totally fine. His base does not give a fuck that he makes money hand over fist in all of his. Well, he's poor. He's not poor. He's broke. But that he's getting all these deals and all these fair. You can bribe him in so many ways through his business dealings, and so yeah. All right, great. I appreciate it. Twitch.tv/winners and losers. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. We're climbing slowly, 70 something subscribers right now, and we can get up to 100, and I can change the URL, I believe. Still, that's how it works. That'll be great. Hope everybody's taking care of yourself. Forgive yourself if you need to indulge a little bit. If you're not doing everything perfectly, just take it easy. Stress is a really difficult thing to deal with, and just in terms of health, like the hormone cortisol. Google it if you want to read up on that. It's kind of interesting. I've been meditating, and it's been wonderful. At least it's helping. I can tell on days where I don't. So I didn't want to this morning. I forced myself to, because my God, how many 10-minute periods of the day will I waste? And one 10-minute cost, so to speak, and the benefits are enormous. So give that a try if you're trying to. I don't know why. Okay, all right, I gotta go. I'm gonna edit all this, put it up. Thanks for listening. Hope you're doing well. You're doing okay. Everything's gonna be all right. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not. Who knows? We'll see. And vote. Don't forget. Vote. Bye-bye.